Welcome back to episode 3, step 3, to our guide for creating your composable commerce architecture, where my colleague and commerce expert, Jamie Smith, will walk through creating an ideal solution blueprint for your business problem. Let's tune in. How do we start thinking about the composable commerce solution? I think we're ready for it now, right?
You're absolutely right, Hannah, and some of your observations are great. The key thing is we spend a lot of time talking about what seems to be obvious project kickoff things. And ironically, in my experience, people ignore these to accelerate the process. And generally, it's where the project fails. Mm-hmm. However, when we actually look at what the business needs to define, what their design blueprints and everything else are, we say, well, where do we start? So the blueprint, and that's the key term we have to start with. At the heart of a great composable commerce solution is a design-first philosophy. And this is key. Why so, I hear you say. Now, the key thing is that we have to understand that traditional application-centric e-commerce solutions, as we all fondly term now monoliths, you spend most of your time working on how you need to map the feature function, what we call the fit gap, starting with the out-of-the-box pre-built templated storefronts, the predefined hierarchical database schemas, and really looking at what that application will provide to us. And in that, we forget that we're not actually designing. What we're doing is a bit like we would do if we bought a PC for home. The fact that it has Windows on it and Windows runs the applications, we don't think about. It does its job. And in our IT world today, we need those sort of applications. However, in the e-com world, the composable commerce philosophy unlocks that thought process for e-com, back to the points I was making on journeys earlier. And it really takes you through a design-first architectural proposition to say, which pieces do I need? How do I need them? When do I need them? Where do I need them? So, thinking that way, creating a design blueprint provides you with an approach to rapidly visualize the critical moving parts you need to increase your speed to market. And a number of these I've done in the past with clients really helps them as business people to understand the value composable commerce brings, rather than getting into the technical minutia of what command does what.
Right. So it's very much kind of getting out of the box. If you maybe have an existing, what we call monolithic platform, where there's lots of options for you to select on and click off, stop thinking that way and more think back to your original pain and how you're going to blueprint a solution versus getting boxed in with the technology.
Exactly. And if I give a real example before I sort of go through some of the key steps, if I think back to large-scale global retailers I've worked with historically, you'll go into a meeting with them and they'll say, I need e-commerce, I need to sell online, I need to bring my channels together. And then when you start to look at a blueprint, you basically step up and say, okay, so is your problem content? If you're saying you're in every channel on the planet, how is the content consumed? When is it available? Are you sure it's consistent? That consistency leads to giving you real detail. And in the content world, the reason I give the example is you've got the differentiation between unstructured and structured content. The structured content being in the realm of the web content management providers, and the structured content in the realm of consumable commerce, where the database and the data that you're using about your product, your hierarchy, your categories, your taxonomy is key. But when you bring these together and they collide, gives you the ability to do what you need to do. Okay. So when you think of the blueprint firstly looks at taking some of the things we've started with, the user journeys. It allows you to focus on use cases. Instead of saying, let's do the solution, the whole solution. Well, we need to start small and grow. So what are the tactical approaches we need? What are the strategic approaches we need? How do we want to go out to the market? Many established businesses want to test new markets. They've done B2B for years and they want to try B2C. What does that look? How do I steal a step on competition? How do I make myself differentiated? We then look at that and take it a step further, and we start to really look at the landscape and we say, right, what are the physical touch points? What are the logical touch points? So physically, if you take a retailer, 9 times out of 10, a retailer will have a web presence, they will have a mobile presence. They will have in-store operations, point of sales. They will have CRM systems. They will have things like kiosks to do wedding gifting and so forth.
Sure.
In our new modern world, where everyone now is online and trying to manage goods online and in store, you'll have interactive vending machines and various other things. You'll also have test devices where engineers in the field will come in and plug a device into your washing machine, and it will tell them the component part that's broke, but more importantly, allow them to then order that or automatically order that part to have it replenished if they don't have it in the van. So all of these things become very, very critical in the blueprint and where the starting position comes. You overlay those touch points and those journeys to the technology. Back to why we needed to know the strategic ones to start with. Now we open Pandora's box. So we know strategically you've got a CRM and an ERP that's not going to move. You need those for your business to operate. But what about web content? What about product management? What about order management? What about fulfillment? What about payment? You know, product management is one that people generally think, well, I'm just building my product data. Well, let's be real. You know, if I'm building out a product definition, that product definition, if I'm using something like a product information management tool, is critical to the whole organization. It could lead to physical print. It could lead to website product. It could lead to mobile definition with restricted description. And these things are impactful in your blueprint. Great example. You know, we've been working with Remarkable now for well over 3 years. Remarkable as a startup organization took the composable commerce journey. Why? It gave them agility. It gave them the ability to pick key pieces of technology at the right time to allow them to trade online and sell the Remarkable tablet. More importantly, it gave them the ability to say which pieces have to be strategic, which pieces don't. Do we have this specific fulfillment system we need to do? Is there something internally we could build to keep it cheaper and easier? Remarkable are now on the journey that they've had great success with their Remarkable 2 launch with us. And they're seeing the future, and they're now looking strategically as their growth as a tech startup and saying, how does our landscape change? How does composable commerce allow us to really flex our muscles? Which services do we want to interact to new and evolving devices? Do we want to put some composable commerce hooks into our tablet? So it opens all sorts of different thoughts for the future.
Got it. Yeah, my brain is buzzing with what Remarkable could do now. And I think that's really what you're expressing. There's a lot of possibilities with this approach. And we talk about, you know, moving off of a monolithic platform. There's ways to do that probably in this blueprint that are one and done, where you come fully over to a composable commerce approach. But there's also ways where you take bits and pieces, right? If that's part of the problem that you need to solve, you can do that in kind of a incremental way with composable commerce. Or if you're net new to commerce at all, you can build something from the ground up. So it feels like there's so much flexibility with this type of framework. And as you build the actual architecture, that continued flexibility to build what you really need for that business problem in the moment and adjust as time continues, really setting you up for the future.
You're absolutely right, Hannah. And I think this is where we get to the point of the fun really starting. Because once you understand the journey and the dynamic, you understand the personas you want to target, really the key thing is, in a simple sense, the world's your oyster. But the key thing is where to start first to really have the biggest impact. You know, not look at saying, I'm going to spend, and this is a fundamental statement when we look at monolithic or application architectures against the microservices world and composable commerce. It's about speed. Absolutely essential. Why? Because in an application architecture world, it will take you 6 to 12 months to define what you're going to use, install, configure, build the environments, set up the infrastructure, bring it together, and then build on top of that what your go-to-market experience is. And that means there's a lot of work for the business. You've got to keep a lot of investment on building it. And at the end of the day, in our market today, 3 days is long enough. Yeah. 3 months is a lifetime. A year, you've lost your market.
Oh my gosh, especially in our current world situation. Things are changing so quickly with, you know, how people are transacting and interacting with brands. It feels like it changes every week. So I think even now or now this is more and more important. You're ready to move on to the final step for creating your composable commerce architecture. Click through to the next piece of episode 3, where we walk you through the details of building your composable commerce architecture, from your team to your technology, bringing it all together. Hope to see you there.